Before we go over the pledge, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence, recognizing we had 3 people the system lost recently. Benny Garrick, who's a longtime supporter of the school system, Mike Evans, who was a longtime employee at the high school, and Rudy Oliver, Diane Darlington's father, passed away last night. Thank you. There we go. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any member here tonight to address the board on an agenda item or a non-agenda item? If not, we'll go to recognition of tenured teachers. Do I need to read these?
Yes.
For the minutes? I'm sorry. Thank you. Approval of the agenda first.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Usselton, second by Ms. Johnson. If you feel a motion, please respond by raising your right hand or left hand, either one. Thank you.
And you do.
Roll call, we need to, Jessica is on her way. Ms. Johnson may have to leave at 6:15. She's got a medical appointment.
I think you should read the names of the teachers.
I will. Also want to point out that Mr. Miller, our counsel, is absent tonight. He's got food poisoning, bad. Been in the hospital on IV. I'm hoping that he's out tonight. But he's already been working in the hospital. Following teachers were granted tenure on the April 15th, 2019 Board of Education meeting, and their tenure is effective beginning the 1920 school year. Katie Copeland at Bel Air, Jordan Dilly at Bel Air, Miranda Tucker, East Lincoln, Jennifer Bean, Robert E. Lee, Julie Coster, East Middle, Michael Butner, West Middle, Tyler Moriarty, West Middle, Chesley Pricer, West Middle, Jenna Morris, Tullahoma High, Whitney Morris, Tullahoma High, Jonathan Wood, Tullahoma High, and Sherry Zimmerman, Tullahoma High. Does that line up with you, Ms. Vaughn? All right. Next item is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes and surplus items. Is there any member that wants to take one of those off the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. GG, motion. And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Usselton. Any further questions? If not, if you're for the motion, please respond by raising your hand. Any opposed? Unfinished business, the maintenance, or the old maintenance, which is now building and grounds. One of these days I'll get used to that. Met, and Mr. Carver was not able to be there, but we still had a fine meeting. And Tim was there, and we talked primarily about the finish up at and the great drainage work that's done at Bel Air. I had been over there and visited with Mr. Epley a couple times, and the fresh water, all those lines are repaired. There should be no dripping now after many years of plenty of leaks, and the ceiling tile don't look very well. They haven't been repaired, and Tim was going to take extra care to try to get somebody over there to repair the ceiling tile needs to be. And there's also some of the support system, the metal T's and so forth, that he was going to try to clean up or replace. And we also had questions while we were over there about the wall where the planter was. He was going to take some more effort and get the contractor involved about possibly getting that fixed up. The committee also then went to East Middle. And one thing I'd like to put, I talked to Mr. Carver about that we may need to have a search mission to look at a lot of different places there's eyesores in our schools, especially the older ones. And maybe we need to get somebody, a contractor, a small one, for about 6 weeks, just go by and hit punch list. There's little places on every school, especially the high school, Bel Air, and East Middle, that need to be looked at. But that's, we'll talk to the maintenance committee, buildings and grounds again about that, and also we may have to get finance involved, but I really don't think it's going to be a costly item. We just need to fix it up. So,
That sounds like a good idea.
anybody have a question or comment on the buildings and grounds?
So that's all about upgrades, right?
Yeah, or just
Education.
There was yeah.
Okay.
And getting it to somebody that has time. I'm convinced there's a whole lot of that right now. The janitors and the maintenance crew doesn't have time to do it.
Well, I know that Dr. Dillahay, since going to East Middle School, has made it a priority to walk through with his building staff and have clear expectations on what's to be done. But again, I think the scope of work is, I think we need to address the larger things, and then once those are addressed, it'll be easier to maintain.
And Dr. Dillahay didn't know it was in his job description to kill hornets' nests. But he had to take out a really big hornet's nest last week, right by the sidewalk where all the kids
Oh, my God.
walk.
He's still fighting the wasp situation over there too.
Yeah.
Still ain't got that covered.
Yeah, we've got to do something about that.
All right, Mr. Carver, with the change of civil rights coordinator.
Right. This is a position that was held previously by Dr. Carter from the Personnel Department. It is something that is appointed by the board. It's going to be my recommendation that Ms. Jennifer be our civil rights coordinator, as she's closest to the personnel issue at this point.
All right, any questions or comments on that? I'll entertain a motion as such then.
Somebody,
Ms. Robinson has the motion. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any further discussion? Not if you're for the motion, please respond by raising your hand. Any opposed? Board Policy 2.804, second reading.
This will be the second reading of this board policy. Upon the completion of this reading, it would, you vote on passing it. I don't know if there's any questions in response to this or not. For the benefit of the group, this, or benefit of the audience, this had to deal with reimbursement for travel expenses and specifically dealing with alcoholic beverages, that would be something that would not be covered by district funds, should those traveling choose to do that. That would not be a reimbursement.
Before I ask for a motion, I want to commend the committee that's been, y'all have done a great job. Long and I would think a pretty tiresome task. Do we have a motion to accept 2.804 on second reading? Motion by Ms. Lawson. We have a second. Second. By Mr. Hill. Any further comments or questions? Not for the motion, please respond by raising your hand. Any opposed? Amendment to the 1920 budget. Rationale, the Bel Air C. Bel Air Elementary stormwater and water piping projects were budgeted 18-19 fiscal year budget due to the work happening during the time when school was out of session. With the sum of the project was completed and will be paid during the 1920 fiscal year. Therefore, to reflect the carryover of these funds, the budget for 1920 should be amended in the amount of $388,250. Do we need to amend the previous year's budget? Just this one. All right. So this it will appear, that number will appear in the fund balance to start, and it'll be reduced. The bottom figure will be reduced by that same amount. Is that correct? Everybody understand the motion or what I'm looking for? Mm-hmm. This has to be done through the auditors, and then we have to give this to the city, and the city has to amend their budget with the state. Follow the state. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to do such?
So moved.
So, motion by Ms. Usleton, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lawson. Any further discussion? Not for the motion, please respond by raising your hand. Any opposed? Thank you. New business, Clyde Smith Jr. Leadership Award. We've been over this in study session, and Aaron, you'll be free to, I hope at the end of this meeting, to give us and the people that were persons great amount of publicity. Do we have a motion for the Clyde Smith Junior Leadership Award for this year?
I'd like to make a motion that Yvonne Long and Waylon Long will be our recipients of the Clyde Smith Junior Leadership Award.
All right.
Second.
Second, motion by Ms. Usleton, second by Ms. Johnson. That pair, Ms. Long was a long-time art teacher in grade schools, and Waylon started off as a teacher and coach at West Middle, and eventually came here and was a long-time head of personnel. And both of them were tremendous employees. And I commend the board for, at least so far we got the nomination. Any other questions, comments? Not, if you're for the motion, please respond by raising your hand. Any opposed? Ms. Usleton has already reached out to him, so if you need contact information, if you'll get with her, she can get you on the way. Thank you.
Jennifer Rebelli, right?
Pardon me?
Okay, sorry.
What's your
There's multiple of you.
Yeah, right.
All right, 2020 health insurance premium cap. Mr. Carver, is this you or Mr. Ray?
Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
We received notification that there will not be any healthcare cost increase for the 2020 calendar year. Therefore, we're recommending leaving the caps for the 2020 calendar as is.
Does that require a motion? Or is just information item tonight, sounds like?
I believe it's information at this time. If we were going to change the caps, you'd have to take action on it, but we're leaving the caps as is.
That's good news.
Very much so.
And then also under new business, designation of disciplinary officer.
Yes, going forward for the upcoming year, the disciplinary officer is the one that would hear, it's the next step in the appeal process for disciplinary actions that would take place in the high school or district-wide. I'm recommending that I assume the role of the district's disciplinary officer. I think it makes sense that it goes to the superintendent's office as a point of appeal. That might be something that is added to the Director of Student Services at some point, but for the interim piece that I would take that on.
Okay. Everybody heard the administration's suggestion? Do we have a motion to do such?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Usleton, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Robinson. Any further discussion, comments, or questions? If not, if you're for the motion, please respond by raising your hand. Any opposed? All right, superintendent's report, Mr. Carver.
It's my understanding that Rupa will be serving as our liaisons officer as our liaisons with the City Council. We welcome that. We also, in the audience tonight, our newly elected Alderman Daniel Berry is sitting back there. I've had a couple of opportunities to have conversations with him, and I appreciate your support for the schools, sir, so thank you. As far as personnel goes, a few things to lift up. Pat, you and I had talked about the study session for September, and that there would be a study session in September, correct?
Correct. Did we move that, the date?
It had been selected as tentative for Monday, September 9th.
Okay. And then the regular meeting is tentatively 2 weeks later?
The
or-
23rd.
Okay.
So, that's fine. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Are you finished?
Well, no, I just, as far as that goes, I think that'll work out good. There is a conclave of superintendents that goes on at that time, but I'll make arrangements to be here for the study session. It's not a problem.
All right. Let me remind everybody that on the 5th, that is the district TSBA regional meetings. We've got a good conflict going on that night because Coach Olive is in his AD position, felt like he needed to cooperate with the band trip who's performing that Saturday at UT, that we moved the ball game to Thursday night, knowing that would probably hurt negatively the attendance, but still felt like the cooperation was needed, and I tipped my hat to them. But we've got a ball game that some of you may need to attend, some of you may need to be there for band, and I understand that we won't have the 100%, and we may have a pretty low attendance.
What date
But
is that?
It's Thursday the 5th.
The 5th, the
Yeah, which we moved the Lewisburg or Marshall County game from Friday night to Thursday night, which is the same night. The meeting is at Spring Hill, and there's a good chance that somebody from our board is going to be it has been nominated as a director, and there's a really good chance that one of our students is going to be recognized as student of the South Central District and will be up for the state student of the year. So we got two things there that also, besides getting the normal legislative report from the board. But I understand that we've got plenty of conflicts, and I know that we're not going to ride over with a full band.
But if you had told Sandy that you were going to attend, I think she needs to know if you're not going to attend by, I got an email about that, by a certain date, because she can cancel that without having to pay for your meal or whatever.
Good point.
So if you know that you can't go, be sure and let her know.
I've got to go a little bit early. If somebody needs a ride, I'll be glad to drive. But
Do you know how to get there?
yeah, I need to talk to Mr. Carver. Directions they put out. The school's new enough where it's not on.
Just wanted to make sure. I've read with Pat.
You got to go.
We're going to tour the state.
And you gotta go over back roads.
Oh, it's back roads?
Oh, yeah.
I'll drive.
Pat, I would make mention, you did make mention of it. It is the meeting itself is at Spring Hill, and they've opened two new schools, Battle Creek Elementary and Battle Creek Middle School.
Right.
And Susan and there's a superintendent meeting over there on Friday. We're going to go over and look at the Battle Creek Elementary School. But one of the things that's unique about it is that the physical plants were designed to support project-based learning in both the elementary and the middle school. So
Right.
that'll be a good way to take a look at it. And that I am planning on attending I would like to go to the football game, but because we may have a student that's going to be recognized, I would just tell folks here.
I think the student being recognized is better than the board member.
Well, and the board member too.
No, not student.
But, I don't know what the board's plans are, but I will be planning on going over to that, and I do know how to get there. So,
Is the best route 840? And they get off at Columbia?
That's how we went before. But let me tell you, we had to make a lot of turnarounds, and because it's way back in the.
It's
The
the same.
letter that I received about it had the directions on the back of that.
Yeah, but it
page.
came
but
from, it didn't go, it wasn't using 840.
Oh,
But you get off of 840 at one of those highway numbers, so it's not too far off.
Yeah, we had directions last time. And there was,
I know how to take the back roads and go through Chapel Hill and end up there.
Kim and I both make one right. All right, keep going.
The only other,
Sounds like everybody.
couple other things to make mention and share with the board. We are now into our third week of school, and by all accounts, we've had a great start up to the school year. Staff are excited, kids are excited, so we feel really good about that. As we look to the 1920 school year, again, this is one of those years where we're going to continue to do research on what is going to be best practices. We do have a trip scheduled up to South Dakota in September. Director Hill is planning on attending. I don't know if that's going to work out for you or not, Jessica. But we do have Two of our principals will go up this time. Mary Gilbert, Miss Gilbert is going to go, and Miss Edens. And then also, I had coffee this morning with President Torrance, and he's wanting to go up and see it as well, too. The intent is for the leadership to go in this September, and then in October, the teachers will make another trek up there. We had a meeting on the South Dakota model this afternoon, and the focus will be on 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. South Dakota includes the 2nd grade, but we're looking at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. It's kind of our rollout here with emphasis on the math, differentiating, personalizing math. In October, by October, we should have 3 other teachers selected to be a part of that team. And our thinking now is, depending on parents that want to have their kids be a part of it, we're exploring the option of having Robert E. Lee do a part of it, and pilot it, and then based on parent demand and the flexibility of FARA not having walls, that FARA might be an option for. And then anybody that doesn't go in October gets to go back in February.
I was gonna say, you don't wanna go in February.
But otherwise, no, that continues to move forward. And I guess I've got to compliment both the leadership in the buildings and the staff. I've been a part of a lot of school startups, and the principals, I'm encouraged at the number of the times they're getting out in the classrooms. The teachers, they're excited to be back. And again, I emphasize what I said earlier. This has just been a great start for the 1920 school year.
Right.
And I'd entertain any questions from you all.
I got one last semi-announcement in that y'all have had some great ideas that's been floating around on emails for the last several weeks. And some of the things I asked Sandy to put on, I talked to Mr. Carver about the next study session. Several of you mentioned a gentleman that met with some churches for security reasons or working, giving recommendations, and we have to do a security analysis anyway.
That's correct.
So that I would like for that to be on the study session. There's been a great suggestion about finding somebody that has got some interior design background that could tie the whole administration building. Desperately needing furniture that matches and so forth in all the offices, but just tie everything together. I think that would be a good thing for us to talk about. I'd like to get a report from the high school on 101 Light to see how many are there now, to see what we felt like, how last year went, and how many of those are in the regular population as sophomores now, that kind of thing. And again, going back on the idea that we need an outside contractor to work punch lists or get some kind of recommendation how we can get what I think is a little bit of some eyesores in some of our older buildings. And if somebody has any other topics, please let me know or let Sandy know.
You mentioned about the punch list and stuff. This afternoon, DLR did send a digital copy of some of the things that they saw when they had their visit here. There is a hard copy in your folders. I'll send it out to you electronically as well too. And again, you got to keep in mind this was just a very quick 2.5 day walkthrough, but it does lift up some things for us to consider. And Pat, this would probably be, I would suggest, board members, you got it tonight, and this might be something that you take a look at and can be part of our discussion at the work session and such.
So the things that you discussed.
Well, that could be tied in with the same topic.
Yeah, that would tie in with that, yes.
Is that the September 9th meeting? Those items, is that when you're?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So would you like for me to contact Todd Malone?
Sure, unless somebody else has a contact.
I do.
Well, I think it would be good to coordinate.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the benefit of those in the audience, this was training that this individual has expertise in what to do during an active shooter, and we believe it'd be a good idea for staff to be trained up on this as well too. So,
Okay, I'll call.
yeah, if you call that, Judy, that'd be great.
Anybody else? Sandy, as much as it pains me to admit, I do miss my pad. I understand why we can't use it yet. We hadn't been able to find a training time, but I want to compliment you on the packet.
Yeah, thank you.
This was well laid out.
Yes, it was great.
And the email also was very easy to.
Every question that an idiot like I would have had was answered. All I had to do is open the packet. Anybody else have a question or comment?
I just want to say that Sandy is providing some training on Thursday for other idiots.
What time?
What time?
Pardon me?
9 o'clock for Board Connect training and for the Google Suite of products.
Thank
If
you.
it's interested.
Thank you.
And also Kim and I are attending the safety summit at TSBA on Friday. I don't know if anybody, is anybody
This
else?
Friday?
Uh-huh.
Well, that tie in with the work session too then.
Yeah.
Great.
So if anybody else was going, we could ride together, so.
Perfect. If there's no other comments, questions,